Hey there, welcome to another sketchy watercolor artist video. In this episode, I bring to you another master study. This is actually a painting. It's actually taken from a photo that I took of a print of a painting by Alan Malley. And I've never heard of him before I saw this pretty cool painting. Well, I thought it was pretty cool. So I decided to paint it myself, and I think it'd be cool to do like a larger one and try and make it as perfect as possible, because I would totally hang this in my house if it were bigger and properly portioned. Anyway, I started with a grid this time. So I actually took the photo from my phone, printed it out, on like a full computer sized sheet of paper. And I put 1 inch grid lines on it, and they didn't match up perfectly because there was like a little bit of a tilt to my phone when I took the picture. So I corrected that when I painted it. I just took the shift that I saw in some of the perspective lines and assumed that they should be straight up and down, and so I painted it that way. So in terms of using the grid to perfectly copy the image, I did have to insert a little bit of perspective knowledge in there and correct for things that occurred in the taking of the picture. But the drawing really is easy enough, and the grid helped. I like to use a grid specifically if I want to get a better capture of, say, faces and figures. So without a fair amount, I think, of practice drawing figures, it can be maybe a little hard to get it right. But that being said, I did have to rely on a little bit of like basic proportion kind of stuff in getting the face especially correct, because it wasn't drawn absolutely perfectly. Once you paint over the lines, it can be hard to see, so you still have to kind of like eyeball where facial features and stuff like that goes. But what I really love about this painting is how kind of generally soft it is. And it's this like Victorian setting where people are dressed up, and you can see that there's like a gallery in front of this woman that's reflected in the mirror. And I get into that a little bit more towards the end, filling in the... But it's cool to draw like reflection, and a lot of those kind of older style paintings, you often get these little glimpses into the world that the person in the painting is in. So it's not the subject, but you still have a greater sense of space and depth as a result of the painter's choice to somewhat include it, but kind of through a lens. So in this case, the through a lens is a reflection, and so you're not getting a clear image, but you're getting a gist that there's more going on, which I think is really cool. And some of the people that I pay attention to that teach on composition, I see all the elements in this, where you get like the frame kind of style of composition, where you get like a glimpse into more than is immediately like the point of the painting. Like, she's the point of the painting, but you get this little extra, which is cool. And then also, because she's standing in a hallway, it's bordered by this dark shadowiness, and this is kind of set in a time when, we lit inside with candles, which, I don't know how more houses didn't burn down, but I guess they didn't. Anyway, it gives some kind of like a romantic feeling to the lighting quality, where it's very warm and the shadows are deep and casting. Anyway, I looked this guy up because I was wondering, like, is this just like some local painter, and I have no reason to know him, but it looks like an amazing painting when I saw the whole print. So I'm like, where'd this come from? Well, I looked up Alan Malley, and he is a visual effects guy from like the 90s. I think what I read said he worked on bed knobs and broomsticks. So anyway, so he's not like a contemporary for this time period. This guy did his research and understood how to set up this scene, and amazingly so. So it's cool to study, and I'd like to understand better, like how you come to understand this time period well enough to basically recreate a whole scene. I'd love to. The cool thing about painting the figure in this is that, first of all, my sketchbook is 5 inches by like 8 inches. So this is a small painting, but it's fun to work in small sketches. I think there's a benefit to working large and small. Working small helps train you to simplify, because if you go and try and shoot in a lot of detail, you're gonna just utterly fail in a painting like this. But also, the original image doesn't have a ton of super fine detail. This is not a person's portrait necessarily, I don't think. This is more atmosphere and a snapshot into history. And that's cool. But the way that's achieved is with very few details in the figure, but the details that are placed there are extremely important. So you have to really get the gist of the shadows in the face. You have to make subtle shifts in temperature in, say, the dress, the front and the back of the dress, where that's actually somewhat harder for me right now. I need to buy a bunch of gouache because I'm out of like a bunch of very, very important colors. I'm out of white, so I'm using pale pink and pale yellow, and I've got like some metallic white, which makes the whole painting shimmery and sparkly. I don't know. I don't think I prefer painting with glitter in my book here, but see, here's what I was talking about, getting that atmosphere going back into the room. Like, you can see this is a gigantic room, like that true Victorian era opulent, super bourgeois-y style of architecture and everything, but it's also like everything is ornate and artistic. Like, there's a very romantic feel about it. Anyway, basic process for this: get a somewhat accurate pencil drawing. I tried to block in light and dark values, kind of at the get-go, somewhat lightly, and then slowly just kind of go back and forth between refining light and dark areas and trying to see where and how I could make everything more vibrant. If you liked this, check out this painter. He's pretty awesome. And like, share, and subscribe to my videos. Thank you.